first of all, just to understand a little bit more about your expertise, tell us a little bit about what Spenda does.
Yeah, so Spenda is a digital payments platform. We specialise in allowing buyers and sellers to collaborate through the payment process. And that goes right through from retail point of sale all the way to the way in which retailers then trade upstream with distributors and manufacturers.
Okay, so I think you're the right person for the job to be talking to us right now then to explain this. How will the collection of this data and this sort of credit card history be able to assist contact tracers?
Well, I think the key thing to understand is that the data's already there. Australians need to be aware that we have very, very strong anti-money laundering and know your customer laws that really mean every time you transact, there's a little bit of data being left. And I think the key thing here is for contract tracers to be able to use a merchant's ID, which describes the business and where it is, and the cardholder's information being myself, for argument's sake, and when we met at a point in time. And I think all the contract tracers need to know is that there was a transaction at a specific point in time, and that information is readily shareable so that we can protect the wider public as well as our own families and associates.
So say today I got diagnosed with COVID. Would they need to ask me if they can access that information of mine, or would that be automatic for them, for the contact tracers and for the government?
Well, at the moment, that's unclear as to whether or not you would be required to acknowledge it. My personal view would be that we come up with a more pervasive approach to saying, we're not going to share what you purchased because that doesn't matter. We don't care what whether you bought tomatoes at Woolworths. It's really about the point in time that you were there. And I don't really see that information being a breach in privacy. People should already understand that breadcrumb of data is already being produced, and at the minute it's housed within businesses. And the idea is that we get industry, the software, point of sale vendors, etc., to just make that quickly accessible so contract tracers can get on with their job of containing outbreaks and helping the general public.
Yeah, so I think that is important to note. So it's not exactly what you bought, it's more so where you were and what time that will be made available. And I think this is something that contact tracers have really struggled with. If I did have COVID and they said, where have you been over the past 5 days, I'd absolutely give my best account of where I had been. But of course you forget things, and even recently they've been speaking about going through your phone, see what text messages you've sent, see what photos that you've taken over the past few days to help yourself jog your memory. So that would certainly be an asset for them. But I guess there is a lot of controversy around the QR code and about personal data, and QR codes were brought into New South Wales. They are mandatory in most venues now, and there was a lot of discussion about, and particularly in South Australia and Victoria, over whether it should be a government rolled out QR code or whether private companies can roll it out. And that obviously is very much dependent on the privacy laws that we have and the privacy policies of those companies that are collecting our data. Do you do you appreciate that a lot of customers might not be comfortable with that and might not want that to happen?
Yeah, look, for me, the QR code's a fairly unnatural system. So when we go to the shops, we want an efficient experience, and we want to move through, the checkout and not be, for want of a better term, bogged down with additional identification. Now, payment data's already there. It's readily available in point of sale systems, with our financial institutions, with the card schemes. If we take away the what we bought bit, it's far less invasive to share that information with a contact tracer than to get down into the nitty-gritties of what I posted on Facebook and as you say, what photos I took, and using far more onerous technologies to try and sort of shine a lens on what we did over the last X days.
Do you think, from that point of view, with those QR codes, not with the QR codes, but with this credit card history that will be made available, do you believe that it's only going to assist the customer, or will it be able to help contact tracers see, what other staff were on that day, for example?
Look, I think if you fuse together the point of sale information that's signing staff in and out, that's very valuable. So then we know that, for argument's sake, Mary Smith served me, and we can be far more specific about looking at what that person did and how that then related down the chain. And ultimately, I suppose when it just comes to utilising the financial data, if the burden's placed on the cardholder to say, yeah, look, I had a coffee with my mum, I want to protect her too, so I want to share that information. It's a really specific sort of wedge of information that can be accessed rapidly and utilised to kind of just build that story of movement. So you can basically put a lid on it as quickly as possible.
Just very quickly, finally, is this going to be rolled out now across the country? When is this? Does it need to be changes in legislation for that?
Look, I don't think that legislative changes are required. I think the current privacy data and acts more than cover the necessity to share information in specific circumstances. But ultimately, I'm not a policymaker, and I guess the government will come out with any sort of clear guidelines that they need to make us all feel comfortable. But I'm certainly a massive advocate for share that information. We don't want to be in pervasive lockdowns anymore, and we want to keep enjoying the liberties that we have as Australians.